So Gadamer does not imply that reality itself is reducible to language alone. He's not saying that. Rather, our access to reality and our ability to interpret and understand it are intertwined with language. Language is a medium through which we construct and communicate meaning, which allows us to engage with the world and share our experiences with others. So the word is very important. Now, who are the pre-Socratic philosophers? And of course, Aristotle. The pre-Socratic philosophers were ancient Greek thinkers who lived before Socrates, pre-Socratic, and such as Thales, or Thales, Anaximander, and Heraclitus. Now, I'm not going to focus a lot on these guys. I'll be talking to some other philosophers at another time, well, during this. But these people are all very important. I've touched on them in the past. These thinkers rejected traditional mythological explanations and they searched for what they call rational. Now, how you believe the word rational is defined and how they define the word rational may not be the same thing. Remember, same vocabulary, different dictionary. And so they wanted rational explanations based on observable phenomena. They also asked questions about the origins of existence, the variety in nature, and the mathematical description of nature. Now, of course, the mathematical description of nature has come to be nature. The map has become the territory, which is, taking it backwards, putting the cart before the horse. So they sought universal principles to explain nature as a whole and identified problems and paradoxes that became influential in the later studies of math, science, and philosophy. So they had some truth, understand? They had some truth. They understood some of the structure of the world, of nature. Now, Aristotle was a student of Plato and lived during the 4th century BC. Andrew says these new ideologies keep getting older. Yeah, we're going to start seeing how old it is as we unpack this. So Aristotle was a student of Plato. He lives during the 4th century BC, long after the pre-Socratic era. So Aristotle is considered one of the most influential philosophers in Western history, and he made significant contributions to physics, biology, logic, and ethics, or morality, and politics. Very important man. Of course, heavily incorporated into the work of the scholastics and Aquinas, and then developed modern logic, Western thinking. So he expands on the concept of what we call universals. Now, all these terms I'm using will be defined as we go. And with significant contributions to metaphysics, he believed that universals, such as the essence or form of something, exist in particular objects and are not separate entities in themselves. So how can I explain? We will give examples. So I think we'll come to examples of that. But for instance, redness, okay? Now, you might have a red apple, a red car. There might be a red book. You might have a red jacket. You've got these nominalists and others who will tell you that, look, you are perceiving red there. That red is just a peculiar property of that thing on its own. Redness is not something that exists as a universal property which is applied to different objects. So redness is something, when you look at, let's say you look at an apple, and I give you another apple and another apple. These are different apples, different kinds of apples, from different places, different farms. They're all different, but you can tell these are apples. There's an appleness about them. That appleness is a universal. Whereas these rationalists, these nominalists and others will tell you, these materialists, whatever, this group here will tell you, no, that's an apple thing, and you've identified this as an apple thing. That's just a convenient label you're applying to things that somehow accidentally kind of resemble each other. But they're not actually part of a universal. There's no universal because there's no God, you see. There's no God. So there's nothing that made these qualities. There's no universe. It's all just random individual things that have no connection to each other. Yeah. So yeah, we applied the name to that color, but there's a universal idea of color and there's a universal idea of redness. So when you see apples, you can tell, hey, that's an apple. You don't have to be, but they don't see it like that. So this is a completely opposite worldview, and we'll see what the implications of that are for morality as well. So his theory of hylomorphism, which considers the combination of matter and form in the existence of objects, was a significant advancement in understanding the nature of reality and the relationship between universals and particulars. It's really backwards. Yes, Pedro, it is backwards. These terms, I've got a part 2 of this, which I'll do probably in a week, and then we'll explain all of these terms and hopefully tie it all together. If you can follow me on this whole philosophy here. Because I want to present this as how it is juxtaposed and how it confronts the church, how it confronts Christianity, because this is important if you want to understand what we're dealing with here. So, and this is important. These ideas are being used to attack and undermine the church about Christian morality. Atheists utilize this. Others utilize this. These modernists utilize this. So universals and particulars. A particular is a particular kind of apple. And the universal is this appleness, this apple thing. It's a form that exists in the universe. And then you've got these expressions of apples. We can see this appleness through these things. Or dogs. Dogs are so different. Dogness is a universal. And then Chihuahuas versus Great Dane. You can see they're dogs, but whereas, of course, there's no universals according to these people. Let's continue. Socrates. Philosophy is divided into two periods, before and after Socrates. Socrates had significant impact on Western thought. So he dedicates his life to examining the concept of virtue, the dictatorship of relativism. Very well said, Connor. All philosophy is a footnote to Plato, said Alfred North Whitehead, the philosopher himself. And this refers to Plato being Socrates' most respected student. So this led to the emergence of sophists. They are teaching rhetoric and oratory, so good speaking, right? Like Mr. Mustache, that guy was a good orator, right? Everyone said Barack Obama was a great orator, right? So they used powerful rhetoric. They were good speakers. And logical argument in exchange for payment. Now, this wasn't considered good form back in the day, that you took payment for education, but they did it for the money. So the negative phrase, mere sophistry, is this describes arguments that lack substance, that are manipulative, that are flawed, false, deceitful. Right? Socrates engages in debates with the sophists and he criticizes their practices. However, he also could be considered a sophist before Socrates. BS. Good point. Hello there, Cascara BS. Right. Now, he can be considered a sophist because he understands this, right? But there's some differences. Unlike the sophists, he did not charge for his teaching and was more focused on finding genuine knowledge rather than solely teaching logical argumentation, although he was very skilled in that area. So he was known for his wittiness, his irony and eloquence. He possessed his oratory, in other words. So he possesses insightful thoughts and he delves deep into his subjects. Now, according to the Greeks' belief in the Delphic oracle, who spoke on behalf of the gods, Socrates was declared the wisest man alive. Apple in Latin is malus, malicious, malice. Interesting. So Socrates employed what's called the Socratic method, which involved questioning his conversation partners until he discovered logical inconsistencies or paradoxes that disproved their argument. Now let's have a look at Plato, his most famous student. In legitimizing state socialism, Plato also plays an inglorious role. Plato's politeia, on the one hand, is aristocratic.